here. The eternal recurrence requires a lot of things. It seems to require animus and Zarathustra. From what I understand, Zarathustra is built by Mary Magdalene. That's what the guide says. And it says that Wilhelm might have helped. It says chaos might have helped. Once again, it's not necessarily whatever. But that's when it's built. It's built way back in ancient times. It's built back in Jesus' time. How they built that, I'll probably never know. But that's what they're saying, is that they built that. And the idea is to reset the universe so that it doesn't explode, exploding all the other universes as well. We save the universe by, hitting the reset button. Kind of like when you're about to lose to a boss in an RPG. You just hit that reset button and it never happened. But what he's trying to do, and then the testaments are helping him do it, they're trying to reassemble everything. And he needs anima to be awakened. And that's why he built the ESs. He needed the kind of strenuous activity that the ESs did in order to awaken the anima. He needed the Maiden of Mary to awaken because she has the power. He had Kevin build Cosmos and linked it to the collective unconscious. And by having Cosmos hang out with Shion so much, be around Shion so much, it was because remember, Shion is the Maiden of Mary. They were drawing Mary's consciousness in from the collective unconscious. Once they recovered Mary Magdalene's body on Rennes Chateau, and Kevin found out that they had made alterations to Cosmos, he rebuilt a means of drawing Mary from the collective unconscious, and that turned out to be Telos. So he built Telos to draw Mary's unconscious from the collective unconscious, and because he didn't think Cosmos was going to work anymore because they changed her. Once again, that's kind of the implication that I got, and it's suggested in the guide, but never fully explicitly said. That's the implication. But Telos is actually made from Mary Magdalene's body, which I do think they actually said. Remember, they recovered it. Apparently she didn't decay at all, thanks to the realm of imaginary numbers, and they constructed her, and they drew upon powers from the upper domain, from Udu's domain, which apparently has limitless energy, and they drew from that to make her so powerful, whereas Cosmos was almost purely mechanical. Although she did have a link to the collective unconscious. Her battle powers, her fighting powers were almost purely mechanical. But that's Kevin, and then he kind of figured out along the way, wait, it's going to happen the same way every time, then I'm not on board with Wilhelm's decision anymore. Now, who Wilhelm is throughout history is really up for debate. The guide kind of implies he's the Roman emperor at the time of Jesus's execution, which I believe is Augustus or Hadrian. It's those two, and I can't remember who's during his birth and who's during his death. I think Augustus during his birth and Hadrian during his death. So that's one of the things that it could be. Other people say that Wilhelm was Pontius Pilate during Jesus's life. There's really no evidence either way. There's no evidence whatsoever. Wilhelm just kind of is. He's hanging out in the background. He's kind of observing. The guide implies that the compasses of chaos and order are part of him, and he can naturally just feel what they're saying, even though they're clearly separate in the game. Once again, I shouldn't badmouth the guide too much. It's like I said, it's a very nice work. I just have a couple things here and there. But Wilhelm, even to my knowledge, he is still one of the biggest question marks for the entire series. I'm not entirely sure who he is, what he is, I know what he's trying to do, and I know why at the end, we don't want that to happen, but I don't necessarily know why we don't want that to happen this time when it seemed to have saved us. Who knows how many times in the past, right? Who knows how many times Wilhelm has flipped that switch and reset the universe and started over. And they don't really ever attempt to say. So the idea is that our wills have changed, and therefore we're not going to turn into the Gnosis and destroy our universe and all the other universes this next time. So you should let us continue on. And the Zohar. The Zohar is essentially just a link to the upper domain. Therefore, you can draw power from the upper domain through the Zohar. That's pretty much all I got. All right, but the name Zarathustra. That one's something I want to point out, because throughout the Let's Play, I kind of referred to Zarathustra as the religious Zarathustra, who is the founder of Zoroastrianism. He's also called Zoroaster. That's probably not what they were going for. Looking back, I think that was kind of the wrong call on my end. I think that even though there is some link between Zoroastrianism and Gnosticism, there are some similarities. I would say that more likely than not, Zarathustra and Zarathustra, if I'm going for full-on German, or as best as I can do in German, I feel like that's more of a reference to a song, actually. And it is the song from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And if I played the song, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the one that goes bum 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 bana. That's Sprach Zarathustra. That's the name of that song. And why do I think that it refers to that more than the religious figure, considering that pretty much like 70% of the rest of the game is religion? I think it refers to that because of the Zohar. Because I feel like the Zohar is very much inspired by 2001: A Space Odyssey. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to spoil it a little bit, but honestly, it's a really hard movie to spoil, because if I don't tell you what's going on, you probably won't figure out what's going on in that movie. Just like one of the reasons why I'm doing this, I feel like I need to explain it more. With 2001: A Space Odyssey, it's an hour and a half movie, and I'd probably talk about it for an hour and a half about what's going on in there. So the general idea, and this isn't really a spoiler, because unless I tell you, I don't think you're going to figure it out by watching the movie. The general idea is that human beings encounter this giant black monolith, probably where Monolith Soft got their name. Their symbol is very similar to the movie. This giant black monolith, and it just kind of is there. It's not doing anything. But every time we come in contact with that monolith in the movie, the human race moves forward evolutionarily. So we become better. We move forward technologically. The implication is that the monolith was sent there by aliens. That's the idea of 2001: A Space Odyssey. And is that really a spoiler? Probably not, but I feel like it could be, so hopefully I warned you enough ahead of time. But that's the idea, and I feel like that's where the name Zarathustra came from for them, because Sprach Zarathustra is the name of the song that is prevalent throughout 2001: A Space Odyssey. And they took the idea of the monolith, turned it into the Zohar, and therefore I think that Zarathustra is more of a reference to the movie than it necessarily is to the actual religious person. It is also clearly a reference to Nietzsche, who wrote a whole book called Sprach Zarathustra, but I feel like it was like the perfect name for them, so they had to make that the ultimate device at the end that changes everything. So that's kind of how I feel about that one. I feel like that kind of explains most of what's going on. There's only one more thing that I want to talk about, and that's what happens at the end. I should probably say now, I probably should have said earlier, that even though I'm trying to explain Xenosaga here, I'm specifically not talking about Xenogears still. I refuse to give Xenogears spoilers in the Xenosaga Let's Play at all. If you have not seen anybody play Xenogears or play Xenogears yourself, I would highly recommend it. It's a fantastic game. If you're a little impatient or you get frustrated easily, I would say to watch somebody play it. I do have a Let's Play myself. Feel free to check me out. If not me, watch somebody else. I'm not trying to say you have to watch me, but I'm specifically trying not to talk about Xenogears. And it's really easy to talk about it right now. But let's talk about the end of the game. The end of Xenosaga 3 creates Lost Jerusalem is probably the best way to put it. They create Lost Jerusalem. Chaos and Abel and Nephilim. They create Lost Jerusalem. They create the start of everything again. But it's not necessarily an eternal recurrence thing this time, where they reset the world before it explodes. That's not what's happening. They have simply created it and allowed us to continue on. But they did create Lost Jerusalem. According to the guide, because I don't think it's implied in the game, pretty much everybody that we like in the story is warped to the same galaxy as Lost Jerusalem, because you have to keep in mind, like, the universe is a pretty damn big place, and when Xion goes searching for it, there's really no chance that she would find it if she was in the wrong galaxy. You know, she's not going faster than light, so she's not going to find it in her lifetime if she's in a different galaxy. So the implication is that she is in the same galaxy. Everybody's now in the same galaxy as Lost Jerusalem. The guide implies that they got warped there thanks to the combined powers of Animus and Udu. Remember that Nephilim. Ooh, I did want to talk about Nephilim, didn't I? We'll get to her after this then. Remember that Mary's powers of Animus were transferred to Nephilim at the end, which is... can't talk about Xenogears. All right, so the implication is that they start up Lost Jerusalem again, and Xion and everybody's going to find it. In terms of Xion dying because she touched the Gnosis, or because she came in contact with Udu, they say in the guide that Udu changed because of the course of the end of this game, that he actually changed, and therefore she is not going to die because she came in contact with Udu like everybody else did. Because if you remember going through the UMN, people transferring through the UMN, that means going into Udu's realm where he talks to you and he's like, the world's gonna end. And then you come back and you freak out and die. Once again, that's just me being funny. But that since Udu changed, Xion is not going to die as a result of that. She's also not going to die as a result of being touched by Gnosis. That's the implication. All right, so Nephilim. Nephilim is a character who existed not in ancient, like, Jesus' time. They call it, like, ancient Lost Jerusalem time. Jesus' time. Let's just not beat around the bush here, because there's a lot of ancient time there. Nephilim is a little girl, a real little girl, a human girl, that existed at the time of Grimoire Verum, which is right around the time, well, in the game they say it's 20xdx, right? 20xx, that's how the series starts. They find the Zohar hidden in Lake Turkana in Kenya, I believe Kenya. She's a kid around that time, right? 20xdx. She is the first person to try to be sent through the UMN. And based on what happens to her, I assume she died. The implication is that she died. However, since she was the first, Udu saw her as special. So she is a person of the imaginary numbers realm. And she's special to Udu. But other than that, she doesn't necessarily have any powers. But since she is a being of the imaginary numbers realm, she can see the end of the world, which is why she warned Shion about it. And she possibly has some powers that are linked to the imaginary numbers realm, but ultimately she was a real human girl. As far as I can tell, nothing particularly special about her. Once again, that's kind of my opinion. I don't have anything to back it up, but that's what I gathered, is that there wasn't necessarily anything special about her until she met Udu, and then Udu gave her the power to do all the stuff that she does. And that is a lot of information that I have given out right now. And like I said from the beginning, a lot of it is my opinion. A lot of it is not necessarily the mainstream. Some of it is not necessarily the consensus, but that's kind of how I look at Xenosaga. It's a combination of Gnosticism, Jungian psychology, and real astrophysics, real quantum mechanics, and things like that. And as a result, I feel like it is a fantastic game that is worth the study to look into. And I feel like it's one of those series that often gets overlooked. And I do have a few more things that I want to show off in the game. They will be a little bit sillier. This was as serious as I'm willing to get, and holy crap, I've been going for 50 minutes. I do want to thank you guys for sticking with me throughout the entire series. It has been fun for me to do, and I hope you guys did enjoy it. I've had fun bringing this to hopefully a few people's attention, or if you have heard about it, you never actually got to see it, so hopefully I brought it to life for you, and I've been happy to do it. With that said, I think we have one more bonus video to do, and then that will be the end of it. We will be a little bit more silly next time. I tried to be serious this time, but it can be difficult when we're talking about a game where a lot of stuff is implied and never said outright. But I still really enjoy the game, and even though I might complain about it every once in a while, I do want you guys to know explicitly I do really enjoy the game, and I hope you did too. With that said, that is going to do it for these bonus parts of even Let's Play Xenosaga Episode 3. I've been Baller Scoop. I've been joined as always by repeating showcase videos. I don't know how many times we're going to have to go through all of those. Hope you guys have enjoyed these parts. Hope you learned. I hope you didn't laugh too much. Thanks for watching.